we said, it is, we titled it as Who Do You Say I Am? Which is actually reminiscent of a question that Jesus asked his disciples and the crowd. And the answers that they gave, of course, was that you're the Christ and all that. But here, we could see Paul's writing here almost as a way in which he would have answered the same question. And Paul lived just, when he wrote this letter, barely 35 years after Jesus. And so then, what is contained here in Paul's word now is really a much more complete understanding or presentation of his understanding of who Jesus is. And I think it would benefit us, if we also try to, using his words, understand what he's saying about who Christ is. But within the context of the letter, right, Paul actually said from verse 15 to verse 18, it was also recognized as a hymn in the earlier church. They took the words of Paul and then it was made into a hymn. And here was a natural expression of Paul's thanksgiving to who Christ is. Because when you come to earlier part, verse 12, verse 13, verse 14, Paul has said about, how God has qualified us to receive his inheritance. We must be thankful because God has qualified us to receive his inheritance. God has rescued us from the dominion of darkness and brought us to the kingdom of his Son that he loves, in whom we have redemption, we have forgiveness of sin. And so when he thinks about Jesus, he cannot help himself, he just flow off this hymn-like praise of who Christ is. He's the image of the invisible God, before him and all these things. And so it is Paul's natural response of thanksgiving and praise to who God is as he has experienced him. But then again, in the context of this letter, we must not forget now, Paul's purpose for writing it is so that he can encourage the Colossian believers to stay firm and anchored in their faith in who Christ is, who Jesus is, so that they do not get distracted by all the other fanciful philosophies and teaching that was coming into the church then. Some Jewish, some New Age philosophies, some Greek philosophies. And he wanted them to be very clear who Christ is. Don't forget, this is who you have placed your faith in. He is all these things that Paul said. And so therefore, Paul has very clear reasons for saying what he said. And actually it is meant to be understood by the Colossian Christians, and then they are also called later to send this letter to the Laodicea church, so that it is understood. And if it was so important for the believers then, for us today after 2,000 years, when we have lost so much of the essence there of what it means to be a Christian, we have our church today, our modern church today is a lot of entertainment rather than worship, and so we have lost so much of the essence of what it means to be a church. And if it was important for Paul to remind the believers, then it's even more important for us now to come back to what it means to be the new creation, and that the Lord is the head, and we cannot function if we disconnect from him, and we must always be aware. Amen. Maybe we'll close in prayer.